Welcome to Drinks in the Library, the only library where drinks aren't just allowed, they are required. I'm your librarian host, Gigi Howard, and each episode I'll be interviewing a guest about a much-loved book that we will be pairing with a drink for you to enjoy along with us or consider for your next book club meetup. As always, stay curious and support your local library. Hello, Libration Nation. Our book this week is Gone by Michael Grant. It is a gripping dystopian novel in which everyone over the age of 15 suddenly disappears in a small California town, leaving the kids to survive. The chaos and the drama that follows is quite a ride. And I had so much fun recording this with second-time guest, Fiona Fenn. If you haven't listened to it, Fiona did our Animorphs episode with us about a year ago, and we had a blast. And this is a continuation of that because our author, Michael Grant, his wife is K.A. Applegate, the creator of Animorphs. So we are really diving in and exploring their worlds. All right, so Fiona Fenn is an author of fantasy novels that put complicated heroes front and center. Her debut novel, which came out a little over a year ago, is The Crack at the Heart of Everything, and it is a love letter to every villain who wanted to do better but never got the chance. And she says in this episode that the second book in this series, The City That Shattered the World, is coming out in October 2026. So we're all super excited for that. Our drink this week is a Blackberry survival smash. The smash symbolizes the chaos of this world. We had a lot of fun sipping on that while we chatted. Two quick housekeeping things. One is if you're in the Richmond area, Style Weekly is still continuing their nominations for Best of Richmond. So Drinks in the Library is in the top 4. I would love for you to head over today and every day between now and March 31st, which is when voting ends. Also, if you haven't heard already, Bon Air Book Festival is coming up. It is Saturday, April 18th. And at 3 o'clock on that day, I will be doing a live episode of Drinks in the Library with award-winning author and ambassador for young people's literature, Meg Medina. It's going to be a blast. We really hope to see you there and at the festival, which will have local authors and vendors and food and fun and celebrating all things books. I think that's everything I had. Let's get to Gone by Michael Grant. I'm just going to start recording because I feel like I have all these questions I need to ask you to catch up.
Okay.
So we're coming back. So my goal in life now is to make you like the Catherine Applegate, Michael Grant, like renowned expert. Like,
I'm on board with this.
Okay.
I'm obsessed with them. So.
Yeah. But what have you been working on?
Okay. So last time we recorded, my book was like just coming out, my debut, The Crack at the Heart of Everything.
Yeah.
So I wrote that to be a standalone, but then when I signed with my publisher, they were like, can you at all make this into a series? Do you have more books? And I had already had a sequel in mind. I had characters and everything. And I'm like, well, what do you think about this? And this was like on the call where they were going to make the offer, but it was like the get to know you call, make sure we were going to like work well together conversation. And like my editor, Galen, was like, oh my God, yes. And what if Orpheus does this? And the whole thing was like, he was going to get an apprentice in book 2, which is, her name is Gwen, and she's always existed in my head, but I never thought I'd get the chance to write her story.
Okay.
But basically, end of book 1, spoiler, but the book has been out like, a year and a half at this point. Yeah, so spoiler, but Orpheus loses his magical powers, and all of book 2 that's been his identity forever. That's like how he like interfaces with the world is like through his powers. It's like pretty much like what has defined him his entire life. And he loses them at the end of book 1. And nobody else has magical powers that he knows of. And then he encounters this little girl with them. And he has like the most vicious bout of like jealous rage. And he's forced into a student mentor situation with this girl to save his own life. And he goes from like hating Gwen, and now they have like at the end of the book, you just have to read to see how their relationship develops. But it's like one of my most favorite things I've ever written. And the book is called The City That Shattered the World. And it's book 2 of what will be 3. But
Oh
that's what
my
that's what
God.
I've spent the last like year and a half working on. It's like a massive book. It's just so, it went through so many, not developmental edits, but like just refining edits, because I want this book to be perfect because I
Yeah.
love it so deeply. And I'm so excited it's coming out in October. And I got a
Yay.
cover like 2 weeks ago and it's beautiful. And yeah.
Yes. Have you posted it? I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah, I started posting 2 weeks ago. When as
Okay.
soon as I got the cover,
Well,
I was
I'm
like,
just
I can mark
oblivious.
it now.
I always see your stuff. Okay, anyway. All right, so tell me the title one more time. I
Yeah.
didn't write it.
The City That Shattered the
The
World.
City That Shattered the World, coming out in October. Fiona
Yes.
Fenn.
Yes, a week before Sarah
Okay.
J. Maas's new book, which I just found out.
Oh my God.
We're changing our pub dates. I'm like, well, I'm with a publisher and I can't.
Oh my gosh.
So maybe you'll
Well,
see my book pop up
I don't
around then, or
know.
it'll just be
I mean,
Sarah
it
J.
can't be like
Maas.
every fantasy author has to bend to. I mean, she's lovely, right? This is not a.
Oh, not at all. She's just,
Yeah, but she's just. Yeah, I know it's been like a big deal though.
I'm like a tiny fish in an already large pond, and then she's like a whale.
I know. In a pot.
Pond.
Yeah. So anyway, well, I'm super excited. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So you were on, for the listener, if you haven't listened to your Animorphs episode, you really have to come back to it. I feel like it's a seminal, drinks from the library, walking you through it. And I also need to
For
clarify
sure.
the window is open because I have the end of the sniffles. So for Fiona, I'm sitting by the window. So if you hear birds or a car, this is real life today. Anyway, okay, so we did Animorphs, which is a K.A. Applegate series that she wrote with her husband, Michael
Yes.
Grant.
Yes.
Okay, so I wanted you to come back and I'm like, what are we gonna talk about? And you like gave me a couple options. I was like, we're gonna talk about Michael Grant because
Yeah.
I want you to be like the expert.
I was like, what about this one?
Uh-huh.
And then I'm thinking afterwards, after I pitched Gone to you. So Gone is the
Mm-hmm.
name of the first book, but I think it's also the name of the series,
Yeah,
if I'm right,
I
if
think
I'm
so.
remembering right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's basically, I'm like, I'm going to be the Animorphs, like Michael Grant person, or I'm just going to be like the person who always talks about kids getting hurt. That's one of the things I love about both Animorphs and this series. It just puts young people through these crazy situations that you don't read about a lot. And
Right.
I mean, YA can get pretty down and dirty with like its topics and stuff, but Kay Applegate and Michael Grant just are not afraid to take it places where I don't know what's going on inside their heads, but I both love it and fear it.
Yeah, they're amazing. Okay, so we have to let's tell the story first, but then
Okay.
I haven't even finished. I was listening to a podcast with him and he was talking about Gone,
Mhm.
but I got 20 minutes through the episode. He hadn't talked about Gone because he was explaining his entire life and it's like bonkers. And I was like, "Oh, this is why you write these books. Like your life I can see like some of the characters. I'm like, "Oh, he's from kind of how would you put it? That's not I'm not trying to be derogatory, but not privileged, I
Oh,
guess."
yeah.
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 Yeah. So, okay. So tell us, when did you first read Gone?
Okay. I was reading Gone as it came out. So when did the first book come out? 2012, maybe?
Okay. Yeah. Do you want me to check
It
real
might,
quick?
yeah, you can double. It was like around then. It might have been a little earlier. We also have to talk about the drink you made because I'm about to take a sip and I have no
Okay.
idea
It's
what it is.
bourbon.
Oh, I
Okay.
love
So
bourbon.
let's,
Okay.
I need to tell you
We're so excited to get to talking about
about the
these
book.
books. We're like, nothing else matters.
So I was like just looking online. So this is called a Blackberry survival smash.
Perfect.
So everything I was like trying to find, just I was survival, it just kind of came back to it. So it's bourbon and then it's got mint in it. So it's just smashed. The
Ooh.
smash is blackberries, mint, and honey. So I muddled all that together, add the bourbon and then lemon.
That
So
sounds lovely.
it's really good. It's not super sweet. I will give you that warning. I probably should have put a little bit more honey in these, but yeah.
No, well, I like bourbon, so I think I
Yeah.
like it. Let's see. Oh, that's delicious. No, that's wonderful.
It's nice. And it's I think I was
Oh,
like, the smashing makes it like the story gets kind of into chaos at sometimes. So I was like, the
yeah.
smashing symbolizes the chaos within the story, and
Yeah,
they're all survivors.
no one can see the drink, but it does
No.
kinda look like blood.
Yeah.
So,
That's what I
appropriate.
that's what I realized recently whenever I'm doing horror, I'm gonna do Blackberry smashes.
Mm,
Okay, so Gone by Michael Grant came out. It came out 2009.
2009,
Okay,
okay,
yeah.
yeah, so
So where were you on April 28th, 2009?
oh my god, I had just moved back to Richmond
Okay.
because I went to school at VCU. I actually went through their comm arts department because I thought I was gonna be an illustrator because I
Mhm.
always wanted to do storytelling, but art was, like, the thing everyone saw, and no one ever got to see my writing. But everyone saw my art, and they were like, "You need to go to art school, you're great." And I'm like, "Well, okay." I'm like, "That sounds like a terrible choice because artists are just notoriously not great at finding jobs." It's just you're deciding on a really tough road right out of college,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
you're 18, you're idealistic. What else are you gonna do? Chase that pie in the sky.
Uh-huh.
I went to art school.
So you went to VCU Art
I
School?
did, yeah,
Okay. I
and
think
I
we
had
might
a
have covered this in the last
I
episode, but
think
it's been a minute.
we might have, yeah,
Mhm.
and I had a great time through the program, but whatever. I had just I had to after graduation, I moved back home to New Jersey for less than a year, and I'm like, "I can't do this. I New Jersey just isn't the place for me." So I moved in with my partner, but,
Mhm.
like, twist, my partner's back living with his parents, so living with who will to now they are my in-laws, but I was living at someone else's parents' home. We did that for years. I think we
Uh-huh.
did that for 6 years, but, it ended up working out just fine. It was just a weird place, time in my life, just everything, graduating into the economic collapse with an art
Yes.
degree, moving in with your partner, but also his parents. It's just a weird situation to be in. And then, well, who's having a worse time than I am? Well, apparently the kids in Gone are. So it was maybe like art therapy, finding these books and
Uh,
just losing myself to them. But they
yeah.
they came out like sequentially. We were reading them as they came out. My partner and I were reading them together. So thank God I had someone else to like go through this experience with. But Michael Grant was putting them out quick. And
Yeah.
I think there's something like 6 maybe
Okay.
books
We go back
total.
to the
Yeah.
go back to my phone.
Yeah, I know. I have a little cheat sheet I
See.
pulled up too.
Okay.
But I think
And they're long too. They're like
yes.
500 pages.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're really long. 6 in
6
the main
books.
series, and then
Okay.
there is a second arc, which I've only read Monster. I have not read Villain and Hero yet.
Okay.
So, but the Gone part of it is pretty much self-contained. You will leave those books, I don't know if satisfied is the right word, but
Uh-huh.
traumatized, possibly.
Yeah, so guide us through the story a little bit as Apocalypse Now, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's Apocalypse Now meets, like, Lord of the Flies. So there is a small town on it's like a coastal California town named Perdido Beach,
Mhm.
and one day, all of a sudden, like, with the snap of your fingers, everyone 15 and older in age disappears. They're just gone,
Mhm.
hence the title.
There you go.
Yeah. And gone as in there's one character, Lana, who she's in the car with her grandfather, and suddenly her grandfather's gone, but the car's still moving and it like goes over a cliff.
Yeah.
And you get to see her whole point of view. Another set of characters, they're all in school and all of the teachers disappear and they end up in like the town square and just their building's already burning and they have to be like, what do we do? We're like 14 and younger.
Mhm.
Babies get left in their cribs in the town and all these young people are just not even thinking of that. We have to go find the babies and get the babies out of their cribs because their parents are like MIA.
Yeah.
It hits the ground running with all these people just disappearing and these kids getting put into a situation where they can't even conceptualize, most of them, like what it is that is at stake, and like they don't even know what's happening, they don't know where everyone went, and very quickly the stakes start escalating. And I think the main character is a boy named Sam, and he's kind of like ends up unwillingly put into a position of taking charge and kind of becoming a leader of these kids who are left behind.
Mhm.
And there's the normal like human everyday kind of issues that they have to deal with. It is like a survival story. But then introducing into this whole world that these kids have inherited is our superpowers. Now suddenly you add in like half of these kids end up with these really crazy dangerous superpowers, and
Mhm.
then the power struggle between with that, like the kids who get these powers and who don't, is like a whole other facet of the series that they
Yeah.
deal with. So that's like the general, all of that you kind of learn within the first couple chapters of book one,
Yeah.
because it just hits the ground running with the people disappearing. Like, I think paragraph one, suddenly all adults are gone and hell
Yeah.
breaks loose.
I think it's interesting. Well, I was reading it, and Lana, you talked about she goes off a cliff because her grandfather disappears. Like, she immediately, like, her arm is getting gangrene. Her arm gets broken.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, this is like real. And then the vultures are watching her.
Yep. Yeah.
And so, yeah, this is not, oh, behind closed doors is the drama. Like, it's very much the kids are in trouble.
Yeah. There's one scene that haunts me to this day, and it's like the opening of Hunger, which is book two,
Hmm.
where like book one pretty much deals with like the immediate aftermath and like the world building with the superpowers, and then the kids in town, which all go to like the public school, versus the Coates Academy kids, which is like
Hmm.
the bougie private school up on the hill.
Mm.
And it's like these two kids' worlds are colliding. That's basically like book one. And then book two is kind of the start of them really dealing with the long-term effects
Uh-huh.
of what the disappearance of the adults is going to have on the community that they're essentially building, not very well, I might add. And
Yeah.
book two starts with this scene of kids are like, they're farming, they're figuring out how to farm because they have like access to like information, encyclopedias, and things like that. So they can learn how to do certain things. So they're running out of food. So they're learning how to farm. But the whatever mechanic has caused them all to get these crazy superpowers is also like mutating the world in which they live and the creatures in it. And there's these worms that come out of the ground and
Oh.
eat through their feet. And this is like the beginning of book two. And people are getting like eaten alive by these worms in the field. And I'm just sitting there reading, like, oh my God, this is like a 12-year-old who's just trying to eat some gross food to survive. And they're getting eaten alive by these mutant worms. So there's a reaction gift that would be really like, if I could add it right now, it would be me. It's just wild.
Have you seen Tremors with
Yes.
is it like
It's worse than Tremors because there's more of these.
Oh my god. Yeah, if you haven't seen Tremors, it's an early Kevin Bacon vehicle, I think.
Yeah.
And they're like in the desert and there's these giant worms living in the ground and they're like coming up
Hmm.
through the buildings and eating people. So,
Yeah.
anyhow. So who are some of your favorite characters in the story?
Okay. So they're the Coates kids kind of are start out as the villains, and Kane, I you go from absolutely hating him to like just loving this character at the end. I'm a huge fan of villains.
Okay.
Obviously, it's like
Right.
what I write is like villain redemption arcs and stuff. I
Uh-huh.
love a good juicy villain who just makes you feel complicated things, and Kane is like that kind of character.
Yeah.
And the more you learn about him, the more kind of like you just understand him and like the complicated like way that him and Sam, this is a spoiler for the series, but him and Sam are very interconnected, and Sam is painted as like the wholesome good guy hero, and
Mhm.
Kane is like the antithesis to that. But then the more you learn about Kane and just kind of like his own personal life experiences and trauma and everything, the more you really sympathize with him. And people who are kind of put in these positions where they feel like the world is against them. It's not they're a villain for villain's sake. It's like they're a villain because it's kind of like what life has taught them to become in order
Yeah.
to survive or thrive.
Yeah.
And he's very much one of those kinds of characters. And
Okay.
the other one I absolutely love is a girl named Brianna, and she's called the Breeze, and she's one of the Coates kids too, but she's kind of like weaponized by the Coates kids because she's so fast and she can, not just run fast, but there you can cause a lot of damage, I guess, when you're there in the blink and gone again. Time kind of slows for her, but she's just such a good person underneath it all, and just such, like this bright light in the series
Uh-huh.
that you can't help but fall in love with and want to protect. And I won't spoil what happens to her, but I think Kay Applegate and Michael Grant and Animorphs, like, they're so good at making you fall in love with their characters and then just ripping your heart out with the
Uh-huh.
choices they make surrounding them. And Michael Grant does that again. Gone.
Yeah. Well, what do you think it is that you like about these stories where, I mean, where people get hurt, you know?
Let's just
I actually
dive
can't,
right
I
into it.
actually was like, this is a therapy session.
Yeah, I haven't talked to my therapist about this, but no, I think it's just I was one of those kids who was kind of left to their own devices growing up. I didn't have a lot of kind of like adult supervision, I don't think. And I think I gravitated to these kinds of stories throughout my young life too, where like kids were just like put into these situations where they just had to like deal with stuff. And I think I felt like that a lot as a kid, like
Hmm.
because I did feel so not alone. My parents weren't like neglectful or anything, but they, you know, they're doing that parent thing where they try to they're struggling a lot in the background and hiding that all from their kids. And so, but your kids are smart. They know
Right.
what's going on. You can't hide stuff from them.
Yeah.
And I think I felt really kind of like because they were trying to hide stuff from me, I was forced to like deal with a lot on my own, and also that I couldn't burden them with anymore.
Yeah.
So reading these kinds of stories where kids are just thrown into the deep end of these really terrible situations and like struggling their way through it, but like successfully, was really therapeutic to me because I was
Yeah.
probably very much in the less I didn't get superpowers. All the parents in my life didn't physically disappear. I wasn't dealing with an evil academy on the hill who was like trying to come take everything I knew
Yeah.
and destroy my life. No, but I can relate.
Yeah, and now we have Orpheus, right?
Yeah, it was very much me.
Yes, but he's thriving and he's going to
He's trying
we're
to.
we're looking forward to book 2 for sure. It's exciting. Okay. So now we're going to do the part that you walked in and I was like, we have to talk
Yes.
about Michael Grant. Okay, I want you to go first and then I'm going to let you sip your drink and I'm going to read to you the 7 bullet points I have.
I think at this point, no more because I need to listen to whatever
Yeah,
podcast
it
you've
was
been.
it was a really cool podcast. They're not it's I don't know where they are in this world, but I don't think they're here in the US. It's called the Spoken World podcast, and they had him on as a guest, and it was to talk about Gone, but then like I said, he spends like the first 20 or odd minutes telling the story of his life and I was like, are you this is insane. Like I
I
expected them to be like I
Yeah.
literally expected him to be like, I'm just kidding. This is the plot of my next book.
I love a good trauma dump. Some
Yeah.
people don't, but I do. I need to listen to this.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want me to tell you this or do you want to go? You go first.
I mean, what I know is mostly what I know is like the story behind the Animorphs, which I think we covered in the Animorphs episode, but like
Uh-huh.
how Michael and Kay Applegate were writing these books out of like a hotel room because they just were down to nothing. And
Yeah.
those books, I don't know how publishing worked back then, but they wrote something like, I think there was like 52 or 58 or something Animorphs books, and they were coming out once a month
Yeah.
for a while. Because I remember going to the bookstore after my parents dragged me to church, and they were like, "This is your reward. Thank you for not putting up a stink." And I would get an Animorphs book. But they were writing those books and just kind of like banking everything on those taking off and becoming successful, which as far as I know, the books did become successful. Like and everyone knows
Yeah.
Animorphs. I don't think a lot of people knew Michael Grant's involvement with Animorphs back because they were coming out under Kate Applegate's name.
Mhm.
But from what I understand, he was like just as important to the story as she was. And then I do know that they have a trans child,
Okay.
which is super cool because they're like, as a queer person, just encountering my parents' generation is just kind of still a little weird about this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Like to the point I didn't even come out to my family until I was in my 30s.
Really?
And yeah, and I mean they had a good reaction. My mom was like, "I knew," and that sort of thing. But still it just didn't breed a comfortable environment feeling like that was a part of myself I could share with them. And
Yeah.
like having been with my partner that I'm with, we're celebrating our 20th anniversary this
Wow.
year. It was easy to like,
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah. Like I was able to mask that because my partner's a man. So they
Right.
don't know like that I'm queer, let alone like non-binary and not, and like all this, these secrets that I've been keeping obviously from earlier. I've been keeping secrets from my family, other secrets for a very long time. Yeah, just learning that about them made me love these people even more, let alone the fact that they're writing like two of my favorite book series that I've ever read in my life. So,
Yeah. Can I ask you, because I think it's something that would be helpful for other people, like
mhm.
from your perspective, like what could parents do to support their children or to make them feel like comfortable about broaching the subject?
Yeah. I'm an adult now. So
Yeah.
reflecting back to when I was a child, what they could have done, I could tell you what not to do.
Oh, I love this. Okay.
I hope my mom doesn't listen to no, she can get put in the hot seat a little. So like I said, I was an artist and like teenagers, you start learning more about yourself and like
Yeah.
who you're attracted to. I was like drawing some stuff in my sketchbooks with two girls like kissing or whatever,
Yeah.
this sort of stuff. And I didn't know she was going through my sketchbooks like when I was at school, but she was. And she must have found that art. And then she confronted me about it. I think she wanted to talk about it, but she didn't know how to bring it up. In retrospect, I think she wanted to have that conversation, but you don't have that conversation just by just being like, I went through your sketchbook and I found this art. What is that?
Yeah.
I don't do that.
Yeah. Maybe could she have brought it up? I'm just thinking, could she have brought it up of another way and just be like, how do you feel about girls your age? Or do you have any crushes? I don't know.
That I think I like that approach. Yeah, be like, do you have any crushes? And then maybe mention a couple different gender options and see.
You can like this.
Yeah, like at that point you'll know your kid. You'll know who they hang out with, and
Yeah.
there's but they might
Right.
not have the answers yet either. So like for me, it would have maybe been like I think Arcane is like a really popular series and it's probably pretty kid appropriate, but watching something with them where it does have representation
Yeah.
and maybe chatting about the characters in those relationships and seeing, like a roundabout way to kind of approach it, feel them out, and while demonstrating that you're open and supportive of the
Yeah.
removed relationship from like anything that's directly, related to your kid. Just like signaling that you're an ally and
Hmm.
supportive.
Right.
But I also do think that, I mean, I don't have kids now, but millennials are now having kids and encountering these. And I think we're just a lot more as a generation well versed,
Mm.
queer culture, queer people. We probably all have queer friends that are out and, even having those friends over for dinner parties is going to be a signal to your kids that you're accepting and safe and
Yeah.
those conversations can happen.
Yeah.
Queer normative worlds in books are finally taking off. Like we're finally getting media where there are queer characters and it's not all about the fact that they're queer and coming out and that
Right.
struggle. So I think the normalization of just queer people existing in the world and in media. We have a lot of that now compared to when I was growing up, and it was still this secret thing where you're like not quite sure if it's okay or how you fit in.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I tell that story about maybe asked if they have a crush. And I was thinking, like, a straight person, like, I am so secretive. Like, you were talking about being secretive earlier. Like, I would never tell anyone anything. I certainly never told my parents any crushes I had growing up anyway. They might have figured it out. But yeah, so Michael Grant and K.A. Applegate have a trans child. That's really cool. Okay. So I think that you started at where they were when they started writing Animorphs. Okay. I'm going to take you back
I'm ready.
to the beginning. All right. First of all, his mother got pregnant with him when he was 16. When she was 16. He was not born. Okay. So she got pregnant at 16. He never knew his father, his biological father. She ended up marrying a man who was in the military, and that's who he considers that's his dad.
Okay.
Basically. So grew up, did not really get along with he said his dad is cool, his mom is crazy. Those were his words. All right. So he drops out of school when he is 16, and his story is that he went to the first day of class of the high school. I don't know, maybe not first day of high school, but he went into the class and a teacher told him he went through the wrong door. And he said, okay, well, I'll go through the right door next time. And the teacher said, nope, you're going to go back out the door and come in through the right door. And he said he just walked out and never came back.
I love that.
Yes. So already we're getting a vibe for who Michael Grant is. So then he's just like working odd jobs, working in restaurants, partying. He said he did his fair amount of drugs, and he's, it was a normal amount.
Sure.
He was involved in Watergate. He happened to be working at a law firm in DC at the time. It drops in with his explanation. He speaks fluent French.
Oh, whoa. Dropping out of school at 16, somehow fluent in French. I'm impressed.
Yeah, Michael Grant, we're loving this so far. All right, so he's working in a law firm during Watergate. He has a role in it. He finds some French precedent in the law that ends up being part of the Watergate convictions.
Oh my God.
So he's like 23. How he got a job at a law firm after dropping out of high school, we don't know. But anyway, the story continues. All right, so he's working in, I think, restaurants in his early 20s, and he decides he needs more money. So he commits a burglary.
Cool.
Okay.
I just, having witnessed like one of the largest like scandals in U.S. history, he's like, I'm going to become a criminal.
Why not? The presidents,
Yeah, they all got away with it almost.
Yeah, so he commits a burglary. I think he was an assistant manager, I believe, at a restaurant. And so he knew another manager at another restaurant and knew that they left the safe open. So he steals about $7,000, and he got away with it. So then he's living, I believe this is
just grinning. I'm like, go, Michael Grant, go.
He gets away with the first burglary. So a few years later, he does the second one. This is for $10,000, and he does it by himself. The first one he did with a friend. Second one he did by himself. He said it was much more complicated, and he got arrested. Okay, so he gets arrested. He said he was in prison or in jail, and he wasn't like, I guess you get arrested, but then you have to come back, and then you get convicted.
Yeah.
He puts up bail and then decides to jump bail.
Oh my God. Why not?
So just FYI, this also, we would not have Animorphs without this story, because this leads to him being a fugitive for the next 22 years of his life.
What?
This is a true story.
Oh my God.
Okay. So he hitchhikes. I think it was in Lake Tahoe. He was in Lake Tahoe with the second when he got arrested. So he hitchhikes to Texas, as one does. And he had to live under an alias while he was in Texas, and he can't get a real job, right? Because he's a fugitive.
Yeah.
And this is where he meets Catherine Applegate.
And she was just like, you are the man of my dreams.
I think so. His story, and clearly they're very in love. They're still together. And he tells this story. I've listened to a couple of podcasts about him with him, and he's an atheist. He's out atheist, but he said this was the one time in his life that he felt like God was speaking to him. Is he was out near his apartment and he looked up and he saw Catherine Applegate.
This is beautiful.
Yes.
Okay. Continue. I'm not going to interrupt anymore. I'm seated for this.
So he looks up, he sees Catherine Applegate, and he says he felt like God was speaking to him, that he had to go meet her. And so he does, and he goes and introduces himself to her and makes up an excuse and then asks her to go out and get a drink. And they do, and they move in together the next day. So I think she immediately had to tell her, by the way, I'm a fugitive from the law. So she also has to work odd jobs with him. And so I think they moved to Florida and they're working, they're cleaning houses and stuff. And one day Catherine Applegate's, I don't want to do this anymore. And he's, well, what do you think we should do? And she said, we should write books. And so
yes.
so they start writing books together, and it took a little bit. And I'm just kind of, you know this, I know this. You just started writing books. I've met so many authors, and it's hard, but they just started.
That's not a choice you just make. Hey, I know what'll make us money and get us out of this situation. Books. No.
Yeah. So anyhow, they start writing books. Interestingly enough, they weren't making a lot, but they started ghostwriting. This is when they started ghostwriting in the 90s. They wrote a lot of the Sweet Valley High books.
No way.
Yes.
I didn't know that. I love those books.
Actually, I'll pause the story real quick. I will tell you, Sweet Valley High, my connection with them, going back to parent stuff, I wasn't allowed to read them. My mom, what were the twins' names? Jessica and...
Oh, I don't remember their names.
Jessica was one of them because it was the 90s and that was the cool name.
Yeah.
So everybody that makes fun of Jessica now just know in the 90s we thought it was the best name in the world. It still is, if there's any Jessicas listening to this.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I wasn't allowed to read them. But my mom she was actually very, very open. Maybe she didn't realize the content of a lot of the books I was reading, but everything else she was fine with. So, and we went to the library all the time. And I would sneak the Sweet Valley High books out of the library, out of the public library, under my jacket. And
Good
go
for
home,
you.
Drive home in the minivan with my mom.
There was nothing wrong with those books. But, I mean, that's a skewed point of view. Because I'm nothing compares to what I was reading.
I think in fairness to her, I was a voracious reader. So I was probably 7 or 8 reading about high school kids. So that was maybe a little bit older, but yeah, I was 8 or 9 probably. Anyway, but I would sneak the Sweet Valley High books out of the library home and read them and sneak them back in and put them in. So the librarians were nobody checked this out. Why is it?
Note. I'm sorry.
In my child's handwriting. But yeah, I always think it's funny that I became a librarian because I was stealing books from the library as a child, but I did bring them back.
Yeah.
To the Charlotte Mecklenburg library system. I am not a fugitive.
Someone over there is going to their shelf and finding the Sweet Valley and counting them, making sure they're all there. You're getting an email that 19 is missing.
Yeah, it was me the whole time. Anyway, okay, so they ghost wrote the Sweet Valley High books, and then that's when Animorph started taking off. So, and then that basically takes us to where you brought us into the story. But yeah, he was a fugitive, committed 2 burglaries. I know there's the question I don't have is when did he get, I guess he's not a fugitive anymore and he can be free and he's not, clearly he's saying this out loud. So
yeah, but have you finished the episode? Because maybe he answers that question. Because now I need to know. I'm going to go listen to this.
Okay, yeah. So listener, pick it up.
Yeah, no, it's write what you know, I guess, which is absolute insanity.
Yeah.
I love the fact that when they met, it was a creative union. It sounds like very quickly they realized that they were so creatively compatible that they just dove into I mean, ghostwriting was probably a really good way to get your legs in publishing. And
Mhm.
then, but immediately, like, Animorphs must have been like that dinner conversation that they were brainstorming like every night. And
Uh-huh.
having that kind of relationship with a person is like almost more special than any kind of like love or physical attraction, like in that respect. Cause as an author and a creative person, like the people like my partner and I, we will sit there and have story discussions.
Mm.
He will just listen to me go off on like ideas and help me brainstorm and workshop, and he's genuinely invested. He's like the first person to read what I write, and I'm a queer person, but he's by all definition like just a cis straight guy. Like but he's reading about dudes going on and like totally unfazed. Like it just does he's just a and his brain, I'm so attracted to his brain. I'm like, I know if I'm stuck in like a rut or with a question that like I can go to him and he will help me find the solution and talk it out. And like having that is like from like I said, a creative person, that is like that's better than sex. So it just is wonderful because like you live inside these worlds in your head and these people that like are so they're real to me.
Yeah.
They exist. I have conversations with them. Maybe that makes me crazy, but like hearing that that's what Michael Grant and K.A. Applegate, like their relationship sounds like it very much was that as well, is like so validating to me. I just love that for them.
Oh, I know, same. And you just like I mean, it's so cool when you're able to share this like love of story or love of what you're creating for sure. And I think I did miss it was K.A. Applegate's idea to start the Animorph series, and
Mhm.
and that's where I left off the podcast, was he was saying that she wanted to have kids who like their brain was an animal, and then obviously there's Animorphs for you. So yeah, I love this for them. I think their love story and their lives are just as interesting as
Yeah,
as their books.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
I
really
I
cool.
wanted this is a taken a have you watched Heated Rivalry?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, obviously,
Course.
I'm like the last one to watch it.
Oh my god. I waited for the kind of like the hype to die down because I didn't wanna get caught up in it. I just wanted to watch it and enjoy it because I didn't read those books. So I was kinda going in blind as far as the story was, and that but then the internet, it's great spoiling stuff for you. So I think it was episode maybe 3 where the game changers plot line
Yeah.
came into play, and then everyone was just talking about the episode where that coming out from that storyline, and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
"Okay, I really wanna see this."
Yeah.
And I never cry when I
Oh.
watch anything, and I was sobbing at the end of that episode, and I did watch it alone because I didn't wanna wait for my partner to have time. I'm like, "I just need to watch these." And, like, I know a lot of people are watching it for different reasons, but that coming out scene just hit so hard,
Yeah.
and I thought it was a really great timing for that kind of experience to get centered because kids growing up these days don't realize how not okay being queer was
Yeah.
for their parents' generation, or I mean, millennials, Gen X just wasn't all right to be
Yeah.
out for us. And that paired with the AIDS situation and losing so many gay men to AIDS and just kind of wiping out so much of that generational kind of like those people who should have become kind of like the elders in the community. Just we were living through all that, which and they're arguably being raised within the world that it's not like 100% accepting of them. There's still like a lot of homophobia out there, but like what compared to what we were going through,
Mm.
oh my gosh, it's so much better. It's so much more. It's like we're making steps into building that queer normative world that everybody just wants, I think, desperately to exist in the
Yeah.
community. And so seeing that get actually so beautifully put into episode of TV that is on the surface just really about like surface level like attraction between these two guys. It's so much more than that. But it's like first
Yeah.
glance is kind of like that's the impression that you get. Oh, it's just like a smutty romance show. No, it's just this beautiful queer story that Rachel Reed, that's her name, right?
I think that is
I'm
the
like a
author's name,
yeah,
and
I'm like
then
99.9%
and
positive that's her name.
then so she's a straight woman, I think, but then the showrunner is a gay man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's I think his interpretation of like I said, I haven't read the books, but it seems like they're pretty true to the books, the
I've heard
storyline.
I've heard that as well. I want to do a heated rival. I have a coworker who was like, "Have you watched it yet? Have you watched it yet?" And I was just like, "No." I mean, honestly, it's really we're always like we don't really watch TV during the week. Anyway, it's all reasons why. But then 2 weeks ago, I was like, "I'm gonna go to bed early," and then my husband, like, has a game he's playing, and he's, "Okay, cool," and I was like I just turned on Heated Rivalry, I was like, "I'll check it out," and then he comes in at 9 o'clock, and he's, "I thought you were going to bed," and I was like, I think I'm just gonna stay up and keep watching that." I watched the whole thing in
Oh
one
my
night.
gosh.
Yeah.
It's that good. It
It is
really is.
that
It's just
good.
good TV. It's good character storytelling.
Yeah.
It's beautifully produced. It's just if you're at all interested in the human condition on any level, it's just pure freaking love. I love
Yeah.
that show so
It
much.
is. It's a really good love. I think I love like the yearning and the love story, which it doesn't start out. There is a lot of sex in it as well, but I was very here for the two of the, I'm coming to the cottage.
Mhm. Mhm.
I was here for like all the excitement around this like tension and stuff like that. So yeah, it was really good. But yeah, you were talking earlier about I forget what you were talking about, but I was like, oh my gosh, it's like heated rivalry.
I'm glad. I mean, it was big already. We're going to turn this into a heated rivalry episode, but it was big before the show ever got made, and then it exploded.
Yeah.
And it's just hope in this world that we're this timeline that we've entered where it is like publishing is th- they were I think they're continuing, but publishing moves, they'll sign something and it's 2 years before it comes out, so they're a little bit behind on following these trends. But
Uh-huh.
with the current administration, they were buying less queer stories. They
Mm.
were kind of tightening up and becoming safe with the kind of deals that they were making overall. But like with Heated Rivalry's explosion in
Yeah.
popularity, hopefully it's signaling to them that like these stories are important and they
Yes.
matter and they sell, which like, all right, let's just
Yeah.
accept we're in a capitalistic society, so selling matters. Well, they sell.
I know. Well, that makes me excited, like for you and our friend Sarah Marsh, who's got another, to
Yes.
have these stories that are not like, oh, we have to be like scared that it's a queer story. It's it like they're gonna put that on billboards now because
Yeah.
it's everybody is like excited about it. So this is great. Like
Yeah.
this is a big year. I'm excited for you and I'm excited for everybody.
Oh, we're co-writing a novel together.
You
Sarah
are?
Marsh and I are. Yeah. And we planned it
Oh
out in
my
November and
goodness.
we left like gung ho ready to start. And then she had a deadline switch on her that she had
Okay.
so we had to put it off. And we started writing like a week and a half ago and we're already like burned through like all
Okay.
of act one. We're
Yay.
going back and forth on chapters and
Okay.
it's so much fun. I'm so excited for this book to be out. I don't know how much I can spoil, but we're writing it together and it's going to be
Oh.
awesome.
Oh, okay. I
So,
didn't know when I brought her up. I was like, "Whoa, but this is great." Okay, so y'all are both gonna we'll have to do like a 3-part episode.
yeah, we can do
Right.
something.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought it up because I'm like, I'm going to promo Sarah's book at the end of this episode
Uh,
now. We've
okay.
already got
We're
an
good.
opportunity to.
Yeah. We love you, Sarah.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah. Okay. So all right, we talked about what we know about Michael Grant. We talked about so much. Is there anything about Gone that we haven't hit on that you were really hoping we'd talk about?
It's the whole. So I think Gone is like one of those books where how it starts versus how it ends goes through this complete crazy arc of storytelling. I think what the violence in these books, I think, is something that a lot of people would be sensitive to. But it's so, like, brutally true to the reality that I would imagine these people in this situation, like, confronting, that I think from that perspective, having this be like a YA series and touching on the topics of just, like, how cruel humans can be in response to the survival situation is, like, actually really topical, because I think a lot of people probably feel right now really uneasy about kind of the trajectory of the world at large. Like,
Mm.
whether you agree with the administration or not, which very clearly I do not, but, like, it's larger than just, like, what's happening in America. Like, you're seeing these movements across the world of kind of, like, society getting put to the test,
Mm.
and what a breakdown might look like, or, I think it's on a lot of people's minds, like, well, worst case scenario, what would that look like? What would I do? How would I
Yeah.
react? And not even that, but, like, how would I react to whatever is completely out of my control, which is, like, basically everybody else in the world, like, getting put to the test and coming to probably very different conclusions morally about what to do and what not to
Yeah.
do in order to survive.
Yeah.
And the fact that these books are tackling those topics, it is a fantastical world. I think it takes things to the extreme for the sake of entertainment, but it's still asking these questions that I think are really important to meditate on and kind of, you know, decide for yourself, like, even if you sympathize with the villains in the story and where they came from, like, where that line that they've crossed, is that your line? Is it a different line? Is it, even just being too good of a person and being too afraid to do something that maybe needs to be done that is, like, morally reprehensible to you, but, like, the concept of the greater good, and, you
Mm.
know, negotiating within yourself, like, where your line in the sand is, and if that's able to be shifted or moved for something that unexpectedly arises that might make things better for everybody else, but turns you into a villain. It's all these questions are they did Michael Grant does it with 14-year-olds, which is the same thing he did with Animorphs, him and Kay Applegate. I just love those kinds of stories because I think it's good to have that as a kid,
Yeah.
to be, get your mind working in a kind of uncomfortable way, but
Yes.
through the lens of entertainment. And, it's safe to do it with a book series because it's not reality.
Right.
But, they're building some tools for people
Right.
to maybe access later on in life.
Yeah. Yeah, one of my first when I first got in the field, one of my first, like, good friends and coworker librarians was, like, and this is before all the book banning stuff was going on, but just, like, we would get paid, like, people like maybe my mother, who I reference, who wouldn't let me read Sweet Valley High, and people would come in and be like, "Oh, I don't want my kid to read this, I don't want them to do that," and she would say, "A book is the safest place for your kid to learn anything."
Yeah.
And I think about it all the time of, like, how much children go through, parents just, like, maybe are oblivious to, or maybe your child isn't going through this, but another child is,
Mhm.
and it's so important to be able to find yourself in those stories and not feel alone, I think, so,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, that's why, like, book banning and queer books, it's great for queer kids to be able to find themselves in media, but it's
Mhm.
also just as great for people to see those people in media and have them be normalized and accepted. And everyone is benefiting from more diversity in books, and it's not just about making sure a community is represented, which is important on its own, but it's just as important as that community just being exposed to people who are outside of that community, so that there's not this sense of other that is being built into your everyday life, where everything looks homogenous to you and your life experience and the media you consume, so that anything outside of that scope looks different or strange or you can't empathize. It's building empathy is like so important in kids. And that's when I think it makes the most difference, because adults can change. We can be malleable too, but like so much more beneficial is growing up with an open mind to everyone around you in the world that those, young people end up shaping as they grow older.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you already answered it a little bit, but who would you recommend Gone to?
I would recommend Gone. Well, specifically to if you've read like Red Rising or something and you love
Mhm.
like high octane kind of survival situations, you'll love the Gone series. But then I recommend Gone also to just anybody who wants a you can be an adult, you can be a kid, but just wants to immerse yourself in one of those worlds where the hard questions get asked and not necessarily answered in the way that you want or you would do it yourself. You just kind of want to be put through the ringer. Moral choices. They're they're easy to read because the language in the books is very easy to consume, but the topics and the subject matter is very not easy,
Yeah.
but they give it a and Michael Grant gives it an entertaining spin, and I do appreciate series where there is no hard, fast answer to a lot of the questions it brings up.
Mhm.
I think having a moral compass is really important, and there's a really strong one in these books, but even then it gets questioned at certain points and certain choices people are forced to make, and you may not agree. And I think that's really revealing about yourself as a reader. And so if you like being challenged as a reader and
Yes.
just made to think and reflect, these books are great for it.
Perfect. All right. All right. So now let's take the spotlight. What's something you're working on? So what's something you're excited about? You want to talk about?
Okay. Well, I already talked about the book Sarah Glenn Marsh and I are writing,
Yes.
but I'm like almost done with a manuscript that is I came up with this idea. It's like one of the if you're an author, you probably have a couple ideas that have been with you forever and you're like very scared to write them.
Okay.
And I'm writing one of those right now, and it's like a hope punk climate story. So hope punk, climate punk. It's about humanity in the near future.
What is Hope Punk?
Hope punk is so if you saw the Matrix movies, like
Yeah.
the original trilogy, they came up with a follow up, and that
Oh,
was
I didn't know
hope
this.
punk. So it's like radical hope,
Okay.
hope in the face of like extreme adversity.
Mm,
It's like punk is kind of like a counterculture term, right? And so you'll call something steampunk or whatever when it's taking that concept and kinda centering it and turning it into the focus of the world building or whatever. So, like, when you say hope punk, it's kind of like a really dire situation with really high stakes, but it's very joyful and hopeful, and, like, the themes are all about coming together and camaraderie and, like, hope in the face of adversity,
okay.
essentially. So that's hope punk. Answer?
Where are you? I guess so. It's a manuscript still.
Yeah.
So, just like maybe for people who aren't in the publishing or writing business, what's the next step?
So I'll hopefully have that book finished sometime this year. And then I'm while I am published through a publisher, I am unagented. So
Okay.
I'm gonna that one I think would do better going trad pub because it's got a romance, but it's really slow burn.
Uh-huh.
And there's some fun, like everyone fights in mechas and there's some details. Like the people on Earth have developed psychic powers that let
Okay.
them like operate the tech that kind of got left behind. It's very cool. So I think it's gonna do, I think, better. Sci-fi just, I think, does better through a publisher. So I'll be querying that, hoping to find an agent to kind of get me in the door with a larger publisher.
Okay.
But if it just ends up as a draft on my hard drive, and I finally wrote one of those big stories that have been on my mind for a while and free up some brain space for something else in the meantime. That works.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love that. That's the creative process, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you so much. This has
It's
been lovely.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad I got to talk about another series of books that I just love, but it's so much.
Yeah. So next, I'm not as familiar as you are with the K. Applegate, Michael Grant, Au revoir, all of their things, but we'll have you on again to
All
talk about the
right.
next ones. All
Sounds
right.
great. Thank you
Yay.
so
Thanks.
much.
Thank you for spending some time with me and my guests for an episode of Drinks in the Library. For more information about the show, you can find us on Instagram at Drinks in the Library, on the World Wide Web, drinksinthelibrary.com, or shoot me an email at drinkspod@gmail.com. Until next time, cheers.